okay, she's fine. Because, in fact, I'm very angry with Dawn Commission. I know where I stand now. Maybe before I've not been paying attention to it. But now I know where I stand. He gave me 3 days of paternity leave.
That's terrible.
After trying to that 5 days, that 5 days, like everybody was even saying that federal government has passed the legislation for 14 days.
Yeah.
So you give me 3 days. Oh, wow. So
It's time.
It's time. That's very real. What was that? Really? It was what? Once again, good afternoon. Good afternoon, sir. What I will do is invite the centers here, and when it's time for the presentation.
I don't know if they can be here, because it's possible that they won't be seen right there. It's only the side view that the camera can cover. But if they are here, they will be quite small, obvious to the audience online.
This seat will not be enough for 4 people. I can see.
Or they can extend.
No, they never talk. Well, okay. Whenever they want to present,
Okay.
Okay. They can stand here to present. No, they capture.
Okay.
So the first presenter is Lawrence Ayotunde Abiona. This sharing up. And the second presenter is Noah Balogun. Our third presenter is Oluwaseun Olariwaju. And the last but not the least is Adeyemi Ademowo and Rotimi Opeoluwa. So, when I formally introduce myself, Rotimi Awoshiru, Department of Language, Linguistics and Philosophy, University of the West Indies, Jamaica. So, I'm privileged to be the chair of this session, and I will want to create the indulgence of our presenters to keep to 10 minutes presentation so that we have enough time to deliberate and discuss the presentation, especially time for questions or constructive comments. Without much ado, I will invite our first presenter, and you introduce yourself, you introduce your topic, and you take us through your presentation. You have the grant, our first presenter.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. So my name is Lawrence Abiona. The topic title of my paper is Islam and African religion is shaped with balance, idolatry, ancestral heritage, and cultural development. So I've been a keen observer, the activities of adherents of our religion. If it's true, Nigeria, study in the Yoruba land. So you don't see those who are that religion coming out to debunk whatever Christians or Muslims are saying against them. But this paper is mostly on Islam. So now, I found out that online, using the Meta or TikTok, now see the adherents of African religion, educated ones who now use the platform. They have this chemical platform, different handles where we now have put in programs and they read Quran or the Hadith in Arabic and interpret it in Yoruba so that those who don't understand Yoruba will understand what the Hadith or the Quran is saying. Now, what they do is that they now compare the characters of Allah with Olodumare, and then Muhammad, his lifestyle, and let the people be right to the know. Probably that is what they should follow, or they should come back to their roots. That is what I study. So, and I give a structure so that you see the disconception of that religion by Muslims and why they always attack that religion, and then to look at what they believe in their Islam and how they conceive it and why they attack that religion. Probably there is need for it. So we look at symbolism, we look at the divinities, and that religion, and what Islam says about it. We found out that Islam, because of the many divinities in that religion, some always attacks that religion and see that idolatry. So, and say that these divinities are competing with God, Allah. Whereas another religion not see their divinities as competing with the Holy One. But they see divinities as agents of God, that they are normally that came down from heaven. God sent them, God might send them, and they are there to help humanity. But whereas the Muslims we see them as competing with Allah. Therefore, since nothing was compete with Allah, as it's written in Quran chapter 9. So therefore, the members or those who practice such religion, they attack them, then they must be terminated anywhere they find them. And that brings a lot of conflict everywhere. And we see in Ife, when the members of this religion were doing their rituals, then some Muslims attack them. Recently in Ogun State, the same thing were attacked. So we don't want to see them at all because they must not be found. Since the Quran said that nobody must worship anything except Allah. Whereas these people don't even regard Allah at all. They say that, in fact, they said that Islam is a scam based on what Ifa has said. And they said that Yoruba people have known Olodumare before Islam came. And Olodumare does not say that other religions must not exist. So therefore, what the Quran is saying does not capture what the Bible believe. In the other religion, there are symbols. Even in Islam, also there are symbols. And because when Muslims always attack, the national worshippers, that they are worshiping idols, I see that they fail to see that there are symbols also in Islam. Especially the crescent, moon, and star on the mosque is a symbol. Even the mosque is a symbol. The Kaaba is a symbol. Even the Quran is a symbol. So, and when they attack the sacrifices, sacrifice of the national worshippers, as if it's haram, I ask myself about the animal that you also slaughter during the Elia festival. That's a sacrifice. So why should the sacrifice of national worshippers not be affected? Is it because it is offered by national worshippers? Or why must your own be accepted? How? So, and I feel that I sanctify that all those attacks national worshippers is motivated by colonialism called Arabianism. So they are trying to impose Arabian way of life and culture on humanity, which the very will say no. Recently, we are trying to promote Sharia, bringing the Sharia panel into Yoruba land, that Yoruba people must accept Sharia. So there was a lot of vehement situation. Even some Muslims rejected it, that no, they don't want Sharia in Yoruba land. That what has Islam brought to Yoruba land, that we have never gotten in this land before the king. So in fact, on the online conversation with the Alpha and Muslims here and there, nobody was able to mention 5 good things. Somebody asked them, mention 5 good things that Muhammad has done for Yoruba land that we have never seen before Islam came. No Muslim, no Alpha was able to mention 5 good things. In fact, they were saying that, they were burying dead, and they asked them, "Are going to be burying dead before Islam came?" Anything they said, "We have been doing it before. There's nothing new that you have brought." So, in fact, I was appointed that they could not mention even one that was going to be doing before in the land for Islam came. So, and that is why people like, Emir Baba, Allah Wise, Ishola, different people like that, they are online trying to colonize Yoruba people and telling them to come back home. And some people instantly they rejected Islam. Some people they feel that they have gone to Mecca, and what they have seen there, they have found out that the Arabs they don't even recognize the blacks. They don't even see us as poor. Therefore, why take our money to go and waste it there in this jamboree? So, like for example, now there was one like this online or the photograph on which you see the blacks sleeping on the ground under the bridge, while the Arabs were enjoying and eating good food in one house where they slept, and that will also cause uproar. Can you see how they are treating the blacks? Why don't you leave this religion and come back? That the things that I see, and then we now saw that some people were actually living. They mentioned their names, and then they said that they have gone to Mecca, they have seen, and they have seen that it doesn't worth it, working with their hands and their sweat, and then taking the money to develop Federal Arabia, while the land is not developed. In fact, there's one Oba Oluwofu who said that he destroyed, 800-year-old image of one divinity in his palace. In fact, he was told that it is fueled by, Arabianism, which is, Arabian colonialism. Otherwise, we will not grow with such heritage. Many heritages like that have been destroyed because of Islam, like music, people that they say Arab, they must not dance. In fact, the Ahmadiyya, they say that the Bible must not even prostrate to greet their elders. Must not prostrate. All those our heritages said must lose them for Islam. Those are the things that are causing problems, generating for. So where this thing will lead is still ongoing. We don't know where it's going to lead in future. Probably the population of Islam, Yoruba land will be depopulated. It is decimated. We don't really know. But as of now, we are seeing people who are leaving Islam, Yoruba land, because of this online engagement of this. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mr. Lawrence Adekunle Abiona, for your brilliant presentation. And to also open up the conversation around intolerance in Islam. I know colleagues here, audience will have questions for you when the time comes. But I really want to appreciate the perspective in which you are brought to the conversation around Islamic intolerance, quote and unquote. So let me now invite our second presenter, Noah Balogun. You introduce your topic, yourself, and your university.
My name is Noah Balogun. I teach philosophy, teach public studies school. I am from Babalola University, Ado Ekiti. My topic is rights of persons with disability in Yoruba thought, exploring cultural narratives and philosophical underpinnings. Abuke kú iṣẹ́ dé, òkú tí ò lè sun ilẹ̀ ẹlẹ́ àforí igi. Dáwé sẹ́nu orí dà òdì. These are proverbs, more like incantations in Yoruba thought, in Yoruba philosophy, that lead us to the fact that there are certain ideas and thoughts about Yoruba philosophy that shows empathy, that shows that people living with disabilities have always had some level of rights in the lives of Yoruba people. For hundreds and thousands of years, people living with disability, almost everywhere, suffered very many things: stigmatization, genocide, eugenics. But this has been fundamentally called more with what thinkers like our emeritus professor Ayotunde Bewaji called epistemicide. While more with coloniality, the fact that certain people, especially the Europeans, felt for a long time that there are only one way to rescuing humanity, and that what we call human rights, and in fact, disability rights, and only they found maybe in their own cultural beliefs and ideas, with total neglect and denigration to the African people. And we find the legacies of that in slavery, in colonialism, the African people, in all of that. Until the late 40s, when the world went into the World War, and the greatest atrocity in human history happened. In 48, the United Nations, quote unquote, came up with UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. 66 with ICCPC, and same things with ICSR. But in all of these documents, effort at rescuing people living with disabilities was not even there at all, because people living with disabilities were not even mentioned in any of these documents at all. And even in CEDAW or CRC, until 1971, for the first time when the so-called UN would think that there's a need for, a special regime or the convention or declaration that will take care of people who are living, who live with disability. Then, but this is not to even say that the African people, especially the Yoruba people, the Yoruba people do not have some of these precepts of empathy, of respect for people living with disability. Like I said in my opening saying among the Yoruba people, that was an out. OG at the dev and dogs among the Yoruba people. That saying alone tells that the Yoruba people have always have a lot of respect for the dev and dogs. Don't provoke them. Abukeku, he said just the sacredness of how the Yoruba people even treat the people living with disability, of people who are hunchback. They are so treated with so much reverence and sacred. Some of that we don't, even when they die, Abukeku, when they die, they don't even bury them like they bury normal human. That is the extent that our people, Yoruba thought, to respect people and refer them, the people who live with disability. My intervention basically is to say that, well, in Yoruba thought, we can pick many proverbs, sayings, ideas, and even in the spiritual life of the Yoruba people, to tease out certain principles that actually support rights of persons with disabilities. What are my recommendations? 3. One is to see how we can integrate these ideas in Yoruba about rights of persons living with disability, and see how we can integrate it with the various practices that we have in the right of persons living with mental disorder and disabilities in several UN declaration and convention. about disability. The second recommendation is to develop community-based approach with which we can help people living with disability. And the last one is to foster respect and see attitude towards individuals living with disability. What our future is research in this area. That maybe this my discussion probably does not cover. It is in the fact that maybe there's more need for comparative analysis of various cultures across the world. We still to see how we can begin to see certain ideas and values about how we can continue to rescue people living with disability. We can also develop culturally sensitive disability support service. And lastly, to see how we can continue to examine the impact of Yoruba thoughts on disability rights, policies, and practices. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much. It's another valuable for giving us a perspective about philosophy of right. I know there will be questions for you, especially that your intro. Then we said, there will be question around that, and your claim that human rights from the UN level actually started in the 70s, not even in the 40s or 30s. So just be preparing yourself for questions and comments. Thanks for that brilliant presentation once again. Our next presenter is Mr. Oluwaseun Bewaji. You have 10 minutes for your presentation, and the protocol is that you introduce yourself, your topic, your university. You have the floor.
And the slide. Slide. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oluwaseun from the University of Plymouth, United Kingdom. I'm here to present on religion and epistemicide and indigenous knowledge system, institutional stakeholders, and promotion of Yoruba religion, Isheshe. I'll get some next slide. I'll be fast because time is short. It's not working. Oh, thank you. Okay, so the research focus. My research focuses on Isheshe, indigenous faith, and knowledge system of Yoruba people of southwestern Nigeria. It seeks to constructively examine the survival and preservation of Isheshe as an integral component of Yoruba indigenous knowledge system. So this is a theoretical framework of epistemicide. Epistemicide is a concept that describes the silencing or destruction of a knowledge system. The concept is often contextualized to explain the subjugation of non-Western knowledge systems in the global south, and it was formulated by Boaventura de Souza Santos, a Portuguese sociologist, in 2007. But beyond this, other African scholars have developed it further and contextualized it in the African context, bringing it to bear on our deep experience. So we all know that Isheshe is Yoruba religion, and it boils down to the Ifa divination system and Ifa corpus. So here are some highlights here. Ifa divination system has existed for over 2,500 years. The word Ifa refers to both the mystical figure, Orunmila, as well as divination system. Although a lot of people usually make the mistake that Orunmila is from Ifa divination. But according to Professor Wande Abibola, Orunmila and Ifa divination system are one. They are not separate. So Orunmila is also Ifa. However, the divination system is just Ifa. But there is a distinction between the divination system and the name. So the divination system is the knowledge derived from teachings of Orunmila. But Orunmila is the Ifa god of divination, knowledge, and wisdom in indigenous Yoruba spiritual beliefs and practices. The Ifa corpus comprises of 206 odus, 16 major odus, and 240 minor odus. Each odu, both major and minor, are further divided into verses called Eseifa and rendered in poetic, oral recitations by the Babalawo, that is Ifa priest, or Iyanifa, a woman, Ifa priestess. So Ifa corpus as a component. So really, what this research is about is that it's not about looking at it's not a comparative analysis about the efficacy of the spiritual powers of Ifa or Islam or Christianity. No, it's about understanding that Ifa or the Yoruba religion is a form of knowledge system, indigenous one that we have to believe in, we have to arrogate, and we shouldn't allow it to be subjugated because it has been over the years. So there needs to be a revival. So Ifa corpus as a component of Yoruba knowledge system, the Ifa priest and priestess are vast in the recitals of the 256 Odu. The Ifa priests and priestesses serve as spiritual custodians of Isheshe, through which the 256 Odus are interpreted, analyzed, taught, and learned by other Isheshe and Ifa devotees. Analyzing, interpreting, and teaching the Odus for the Ifa priests and priestesses are ways of expressing the spirituality and knowledge embedded in Isheshe. So you can't just discard it. It's a knowledge system. You can't say it's nothing. The Odu Ifa is not limited to just fair of Isheshe adherents, but influences and positively impacts every facet of individual life and societal issues. The application of Odus influenced and shaped social political narratives and trajectories in pre-modern Yoruba societies. They consulted Ifa when they had to go to war, when there was epidemic, when they had to be diplomatic, when there was disease, there was sickness. They consulted Ifa, and Ifa spoke to them, gave them a sense of direction. So there, it tells you that there's something. It can't all be wrong, like we've been hearing over the years since the incursion or advent of colonialism. So yeah, we know that Ifa, the Ifa corpus is passed down from generation to generation orally. However, one or two scholars have tried to preserve it by putting it in a written form, and one of them is Professor Wande Abimbola, who documented Ifa corpus in his book Ifa, an exploration of Ifa literary corpus. So the Ifa corpus and Ifa is passed down through oral traditions from one generation to another. It would be Ifa priest who then enroll for training under the tutelage of an Ifa priest / Babalawo, and through regular practices, memorizes and retains the knowledge of Ifa. So it's passed down from the. If you don't have a good retentive memory, you can't learn that. But now it's in written form anyway. And according to Professor Wande Abimbola, he said, the tutelage usually starts between the age of 7 to 12, and anyone who is so smart will be done under 10 to 12 years, and become an Ifa priest as well. However, the Ifa corpus has appeared in written form. I've said this before. So by documenting the Ifa corpus and Odu Ifa, Professor Abimbola sought to preserve and magnify the essence of Ifa corpus and Odu Ifa as an integral component of Yoruba knowledge system. Yet, documenting the Ifa corpus and Odu Ifa has not had any significant bearing on reviving the practice of Isheshe in the public sphere in southwest Nigeria. So the growing epistemic, so why this study anyway? So the growing epistemic absences that pervades post-colonial African societies has witnessed in the surge of language death, which Professor Ngogo Watiogo called linguicide, and loss of various forms of indigenous knowledge systems, indicates the urgent need to re-examine the African epistemological processes. Our epistemological process in Africa has been subjugated, rendered belittled over the years as a result of colonialism and Eurocentric knowledge system has subjugated our own knowledge system in Africa. So it keeps struggling in terms of knowledge production. It struggles. My research seeks to analyze the struggle for the survival of Isheshe as an indigenous belief system within a growing body of scholarship on African epistemologies and legacies of epistemicide. Like I said earlier, other scholars have also pondered on it, written on it, like Dennis Masaka, Sabelo Nglovu, who said, who called for epistemic justice. And he said epistemic justice is liberation from coloniality, liberating the mind from coloniality. And coloniality, what is coloniality? Coloniality is legacies of colonialism. The white people, they've come, they've gone. But what they've done remains with us. It remains in our mindset, it remains in our brain. We feel subjugated. We don't even understand. Sometimes we don't even understand who we are as a people. So can we go through? Thank you. So how does my research and thoughts, and the thoughts of Professor Ayotunde Bewaji on epistemicide, how do they correlate? How does it resonate his work? So this research resonates the work of Professor Ayotunde Bewaji on epistemicide, identity, and knowledge loss. According to Professor Bewaji, African knowledge system and heritage have suffered deliberate, concerted, and continuous destruction in the hands of Euro-American and Arabian genosis, that is American knowledge system, or Arabian Eurocentric European knowledge system. Professor Bewaji explains that genosis reflects in the traditions of African religions, of which Isheshe is a variant. One cannot agree less with Professor Bewaji, given that the conflicts between Isheshe and Islam in the early 19th century, during the reformative years, during reform years of Islam, that was between 1820s to 1918. Islam was reformed, and there was that contestation, there was that conflict between Islam and Isheshe, Yoruba religion. And the condemnation of Isheshe by Christian missionaries, that was beginning from 1842, 1843, when they arrived, and with Townsend and the likes. Mid-19th century laid the foundation for epistemicide confronting Isheshe. So that is the foundation. However, it continues till date through coloniality. So Isheshe in contemporary southwest Nigeria, prior to the introduction of Islam and Christianity to Yoruba land, Isheshe was the predominant religion practiced by the Yoruba people. In post-independence Nigeria, and the last 30 years in particular, the practice of traditional religion has declined in the public sphere. This decline is obvious among the Yoruba people in southwest Nigeria. Percentage of Isheshe worshippers in southwest Nigeria is 1.3%, while the percentage of Christians is 6.7%, and Muslims is 31.7%. Adherents of Isheshe are often publicly condemned by Muslims, and just like we had in 2023 in Ilorin, and Muslims and Christians, adherents of Isheshe are often publicly condemned by Muslims and Christians and marginalized by governments. Yes, true. Research objective to critically examine the role and influence of institutional stakeholders, traditional institutions, kings, these ones are Association of African Traditional Religion, like NGO, trying to revive the religion, and Isheshe Welfare Association in promoting and upholding Isheshe in southwest Nigeria. Evaluate the impacts and achievements, what they've done so far, what impact have they made so far, then examine the challenges that they encounter in this pursuit. So, questions. In what ways, if at all, that means the institutional stakeholders might be doing something to revive it, and they might just be lukewarm. They might not be doing anything at all. So in what ways, if at all, the institutional stakeholders promote and uphold Isheshe in the public sphere in southwest Nigeria? And how can epistemicide, as both a theoretical and practical analytical framework, for naming, identifying, and any epistemic injustice, inform us of the evolving place of indigenous religions in southwest Nigeria? So identifying research gaps, scope of existing literature covers cosmology. It's a novel topic, and talking about epistemicide and Isheshe. The existing literature on Isheshe, they talk about cosmology, the folks, the myths, the rituals and festivals. Literature, they don't really address the root causes of the marginalization confronting Isheshe. And that is linked to epistemicide. No scholarship on that, I've said that one. Scholars have yet to examine the influence of institutional stakeholders in promoting and upholding Isheshe in the public sphere in southwest Nigeria. So my research identifies these gaps and seeks to contribute to the body of knowledge and scholarship on Yoruba indigenous belief system and Isheshe forming fresh perspective. Sorry, I'm talking so fast and I need to rush because of the time. So theoretical framework, rationale for utilizing this theoretical framework. This research builds its theoretical and analytical framework on concept of epistemicide. Epistemicide is silencing and killing of indigenous knowledge system. You kill it. That is what epistemicide is about. It's a fundamental embodiment of Yoruba indigenous knowledge system. The beliefs and practices of Isheshe are declining. The subjugation and decline or disappearance, as it were, of Isheshe should analytically find expression through the concept of epistemicide. So epistemicide as an analytical framework, epistemicide provides a key framework to explore some of the root causes of the subjugation and decline confronting Isheshe. Epistemicide offers insights on the best possible approach to address the marginalization, subjugation, and silencing of Isheshe. Epistemicide does not speak to the religious identity of Isheshe adherents, but speaks to the knowledge, beliefs, and practices that drive the religious identity of Isheshe adherents. So it goes beyond Isheshe, but what drives the religion, the knowledge system behind the religion. So this research, relevance of research, I think this is the final slide. This research project significantly draws attention to the urgent need to preserve Isheshe beliefs and practices as components of Yoruba indigenous system. This research project holds the potential to shape and influence public policies towards ensuring socio-political inclusion, because they've been marginalized rather. If you look at it, even though the constitution in Nigeria is a secular state, the failure of existing literature to broadly articulate the predicaments confronting Isheshe and contextualize them within the role of national stakeholders in preserving Isheshe highlights the relevance of this study. Ultimately, this research seeks to contribute to scholarship and knowledge production in Yoruba indigenous knowledge system from the perspective of religion. Thank you. I think that's the final slide.
Thanks so much for your presentation. I really enjoyed it, especially when you made us to see the connection between your research and the work of Professor Emeritus Bewaji by saying that epistemicide, identity, and knowledge loss are the connection between the work of Professor Bewaji and this particular research, and the aspect of IFA in knowledge preservation in Yoruba land. So I think listeners will be conjuring their questions now. They want to know how far your research can really help them to understand Yoruba knowledge system. So they will come for you and you should be ready to give them appropriate response or responses. It's not time for comments or questions. So we have our last presenter. Yes, and last presenter will introduce himself, even though we know him very well. But you have to obey the protocol. Yeah. Introduce yourself, your topic, and your university.
I'm David Adimo. I'm professor of anthropology, African studies, and of sociology at Atlanta University. I'm going to be presenting genocide, elitism, into legal language crisis, Africa, using Yoruba. Doing this, I want to build on what other presenters have discussed and be highlighted about genocide. But my first encounter with Bewaji's idea on language was sometimes in 2005. It was in his paper, one of the paper he published in Olusegun Ladipo's work, Remaking Africa, an 8 years of development in Africa. And therein, it was finally attempted to call attention or contribute to the discourse, ongoing discourse at that time, on the predicament of indigenous languages. I must say this, that work, I'm not sure even at that time, he has had the opportunity to read, to have conversation with Professor Adeleke and Professor Wolabi of Department of African Languages, University of Uganda, who at that time was preparing his very popular faculty inaugural on elitism and native elitism and attitude to native languages. So between 2002, Bewaji has done a lot of other works, but principally for this my presentation, I'll be looking at the idea in three of his works. His work on an introduction to his book, an introduction to the theory of knowledge, his pluricultural approach, which happens to be an editor working with Hope Publications when he published it. Also his work on epistemicide, the geopolitics of knowledge and language in Africa, and of course, the popular one, the narrative of struggle. And alongside, I'll use some of the texts, if some of the key issues he raised, because I'm going to do content analysis, to just suppose what the ideas are inherent in the work that I'm going to put forward. So I'm going to use the three books alongside the work of Wolabi on language attitude and language conflict in Nigeria. And when we go back to the core issue here, three key issues is that epistemicide. Epistemicide is systematic destruction of knowledge system. And of course, we can take it as annihilation of the digital knowledge system by dominant epistemic framework. And for Bewaji, it is that within the context of colonialism, to Bewaji, epistemicide is that attempt, post-colonial attempt, colonial and post-colonial attempt, they continue of what was started during the colonialism to subjugate the African thought system. And to, it's a put forward everything that is European, whether it's language, science and philosophy as the best. So to Bewaji, this is the key of epistemicide. When you say that, when you go for definition and somebody tries to do definition for you and say that is not real, but you can believe what somebody says is real because he said he's a scientist of the weather. Because you cannot, this one is not. For instance, I could give an example. When I was born, I had as a Akwasegai for me. There was Akwasegai. So what is Akwasegai? When you have your first child, or when you have any of your children go for the education, you want to ask what exactly is this child? What are the things that will then happen to him in terms of health and everything? So come from me. And some of those things can bet you. Today, I know how old I am and I know where I am. Everything that was told by parents 46 years ago is here. And it's not about science. So when Bewaji can learn the idea that language should not be duplicately that of whatever comes from the Europe or from America or from all those Western world, for science about what comes from there. I'm aware you also did something on that, or within Western Africa, using the value analysis to do the interpretation. So basically, I'm saying that Bewaji came to follow the path of the life of Ndubi Watongo when he decided to break away from publishing his work basically in English and say, look, we do that of English, but we come home and look again and let our people understand what it is that we are talking about, so that we can preserve. There are so many things we cannot say using the vehicle of the Western language. There's a lot we could say. And I once tested that in my class when I asked my students to tell me the meaning of Atasa Kamidori. When you see me, when you are eating hot, very hot pepper, and you say, oh, I'm getting shook. That is not, you are not communicating to an Anglo Yoruba. But it's Atasa Kamidori. It's the way you say it. Mind you, Muslim, don't give at me, it's not you. So we realize that there's a problem with cross-cultural translation. And then I just highlighted some of these following the path of the likes of following the likes of Ayotunde and Co. Trying to say that, look, we could, and even we're able to a very great extent. So what am I trying to say? I look at this and try to agree with Bewaji that epistemicide is not just the result of overt imposition of colonial languages, but also a byproduct of internalized belief among the colonized that these languages and ways of knowing are inferior. They are own. Our own is inferior. Anything that comes from the West is the best. When we are talking about canopy, somebody, we are starting a center, hopefully in our university, where we call it Center for Indigenous Knowledge and for that prospect. And I say when someone, I was discussing yesterday with Professor Bewaji, and they said you have blood pressure, high blood pressure. I told her, don't need to go and meet those people. It's not that they will give you. Go to the hospital. I said, they will make you a consumer, their customer. Pharmaceutical want to make their consumer. But the African knowledge systems know that when you change your eating pattern, when they will give you certain apps to use, then it will change it. So that at the end of it, you will not become consumer of the product, of just their product. So, so basically, but because you have been told that, you die, you feel that the man there is a stupid person. And everything that comes 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
I think those 30 seconds, 2 minutes.
So basically, and what has elitism done? This internalization has been, transferred to people who have gone to school, who see themselves as better than those who did not go. So when I speak Yoruba or I greet you, you say, Professor Luchi, I feel like this is stupid. I'm first a Yoruba man. I have my mentors here. I go home and I speak my Ijebu language. That's what when I speak in this, tell them Ijebu, I don't speak in Ijebu the other time. Because I don't see their language as the English as better. In fact, if I decide that because everybody is Yoruba, I will use Yoruba to explain this. That's the level I've gone to. But we, the elitists have gone so far as affected our family system. You now have a mom will go over. A parent will openly, shamelessly declare to the other side that my son does not understand Yoruba. Say, you should cover your face in shame, bury yourself for any shame. Now, to show that you are better, you say, my son does not understand Igbo. He can hear, but he cannot speak. And you think you are not a failure. So there's a problem. And that has affected the indigenous language. Gradually, today in Nigeria, out of 529 languages in Nigeria, we have successfully killed over 21. And we're still killing. Some of them are going extinct because we are not talking about, instead of promoting multilingual society, we are going far back into this monolingual, even English is a case of translation. You are never there, nor there. You're not even speaking the English language. You are speaking the language they think you're speaking Yoruba. So there's a problem. You will get that there or there. So to conclude, I finish my work with 3 theories. Epistemicide theory, Elise's attitude theory. I conclude saying that unless we change this attitude, which is what Bewaji has done. Bewaji has done it in these 3 works, majorly that are focusing on, among others, to highlight the role of an African person, a personhood. How important it is for such a person to understand that the space, the African space, is not vacuum, it's not vacuous. It's not just something that is meaningless. But that which would have been better if colonialism has not happened. And therefore was changed about truth was the language. Thank you so much.
Presentations from 4 presenters. I want you to organize questions either for the first presenter, the second presenter, the third presenter, and the fourth presenter. I don't want us to overlook any presentation. Let us react because they are here for our feedback, and I believe we have listened to them attentively, and they will get constructive feedback from us. The floor is open. Yes, sorry, let me go for the one that they can come to.
Okay. So thank you all for those presentations. I think the last presenter has done a lot of things. So I would like to start by saying all of us who are here, mostly within the academic environment, need to begin to practice what we preach. Someone like me won't see me putting on English dress. If I'm to put on English dress, you have to pay it. So I'm a typical Yoruba person and I'll behave like. So you have said it all. But this one goes to Professor Bewaji, Professor Lupono, Professor Palaye, because we need to build the bridge between academics and the general society, especially those who are in government. Someone said this morning that fine, let us keep on saying it. If you are saying it, if they are not implementing policy, it will not go anywhere. So let me stop for that area. Then the question, I have just 2 questions because other people will still have their own questions. So the issue of the right of the disability. I think government is doing a lot of things. So if you can go to Lagos State out of them, they have policy on it. I've been working with them for the last 6 months or close to 1 year now, shaping their policy, those who have lapses, what they can do and what they can do. Start with the issue of women, giving them rights. They won't come and beg them at home that come and occupy a position. They need to come out. We need to demand for it. They don't serve power in Alaka. You see that somewhere don't go and give you. There are policies there. So let us meet them. So that's for the issue of disability. Then the issue of the second one, we have three, but then just add the second one too. You can keep the conversation one going after you. So the second one that has to do with the issue of Isheshe. Question is that where is that political way to promote it? You know what happened with the issue of Amotekun? My master chief was on Amotekun. Till today, you won't see Amotekun in Lagos because we have some leaders who has certain things they are portraying. And by the time they are trying to push for Amotekun, they will see them as if they wanted to divide Nigeria. They won't get what they are looking for. So in Oyo State now, we have PDP. In Osun, we have PDP. In other states, we have APC. When they are sitting together discussing, they are discussing based on their party interest. Nobody is ready to work for another person that will take the glory. And government is not promoting anything. How do we promote it? When we are talking of Yoruba religion, remember by the time we start pushing for it in the National Assembly or anywhere in the country, the other people they will start. Before we know, they will turn it to crisis and won't get anywhere. So that's why I said that like for Baba and the other people, they need to do a lot of things. Let us keep on writing the government, telling them what to do. By the time we keep on saying it, one day they will do something. Then the rest might get there.
Thanks for your comments and question. Please let us make it very brief.
I'll try and make it very quick. And I'll try to talk to my brother. I have two brothers on plan. No available. And I'll just go. If you're going to already have your rights for the disabled to claim, are you saying the UN attempt to protect it now is not necessary? Because I mean, well, you make it appear like in traditional Africa, we already have the rights. So why what the UN Charter doing? And I'm saying that question because for me, all traditional society, I mean, the attempts of the United Nations rights, like we had discussed in the past, without some instrument to protect these people generally, and categorized as disabled, human rights is often abused, by society, by individuals, and all that. So how do you reconcile that? So how come the disabled people with disability are used for sacrifice? Bunch people. I mean, some of your proverbs that you use, the two proverbs, I mean, the one advocate, it looked like a delegatory proverb for the advocate question. I'm just saying that maybe what you need is more data, some other arguments more from some of the proverbs and cultural practices. Because I know bunch people, I mean, Afins are used for sacrificing, bad people are used for sacrificing, and a whole lot of other people with disability, have negative view among the Yorubas. All cultures have some form of abuse of human rights. I'm not even saying that this is peculiar to the Yorubas. I'm saying that all cultures the world over. The attempt at universalizing it by the United Nations and then having some document to protect it is directed at some form of standardizing the protection. So ATL. One of the problems I have had with ATL all the time, and I'm saying this to all that are not necessarily true, is the fact that on the basis of reasoning, ATL sometimes poses some challenges. That if you put all these other arguments, sorry, please, I need to finish it. If you put all these other religions on the same pedestal, ATL fails certain critical, whatever. It's religions that permit human sacrificing. That you can say, I want to kill my friend, and then you can take the name of your friend there, and then you can kill. Something fundamentally wrong with that religion. I'm sorry and all that, but so how do you reconcile the practice of evil in courts, and the Isheshe religion and all that, and therefore epistemicide, language, lingua side or whatever. All languages eventually die, and let me show
English is a collection of a whole lot of languages. French, Latin is there. I mean, nobody speaks Latin, but eventually what happened is that culture evolved and then they acquire a whole lot of parties. The languages many of us speak now is neither pure English. When languages move to new culture, they have to acclimatize to the new culture and all that. And then eventually, I understand the decline.
Sorry.
Please let me finish. I'm already done.
Presentation.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm making contribution to
the presentation. But
Okay. So my view is that it is not a forced improvement. And why am I saying it? Cartoons, how many cartoons are in Yoruba? Those are where the children, I'm talking about funding. We are not putting our funding where our mouth is. How many cartoons are in Yoruba? How many child's play are written in Yoruba? Even the alarm we hear that we play up with, I'm not sure they are available anymore. I can't buy like, oh, sorry, I read my thing.
Hands. Just be noting salient points from your comments. The next question.
Thank you very much. I will start from the last one. Sir, when you say elitism and elitism, whatever, I think it should be considered contextualizing because Professor Bewaji said, "You see not an enemy. You too, are you not an enemy? Those of us who have also learned and understood the rationale and the importance of our indigenous language and scripture of freedom, are we also not the same? So, who are these elites who are killing the language? And who are the elites who are promoting it? So, can you conceptualize this elite thing, especially in the context of this paper about killing the language? Then I will then come to some of the issues I want to raise on the regime. But then I want to say that Ishola in Osun State actually instituted a AG. And some states took it over and they started. So well, maybe they pay me practice to it, but then you can also contextualize that issue of that some people actually are promoting it. But then the problem comes to the issue of rituals, as you have said, especially to what extent can we go with certain rituals like where human sacrifice or whatever. Then the issue of okay, especially by the time these people now use that against the truth or against universal justice, just because you belong to a cult and you belong to an initiative group, then truth must be subverted or killed. So how do we address that? Thank you very much.
Yes. I want to ask you a question. I am an animation from Lagos State. My question goes to Mr. Lawrence Adekunle, and I want to be further educated on the issue of fact that Islam not you mentioned in your paper that Islam began in Arabia by Muhammad, and I want to ask you to respond to this, looking at the Quranic verse, chapter 42, verse 13. It says that the same religion that God has established for you is that same religion that has been given to Noah, that is Noah, and also Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. That's what we have in the Quran. That's my first question. My second question is the issue of Islam being a religion that is not tolerant. And I want to ask a question. When you're talking about Islam, you're talking about the adherence of the faith. In July 2019, the United States honored
the Muslim cleric, Imam Wag Abdullah, who hid 262 Christians in his home and mosque during an attack in states. Then we also have some references in the Quran where it is stated clearly that, for instance, in the Quran, chapter 106, verses 1 to 6, we are told that the Prophet was commanded to tell those that are not of the same faith with him in Saudi Arabia then, that for them is their own religion, and for him is not of the two. For him it's also his religion. So I think we need to explain this. And also the issue of that if God has so willed, this is Quran chapter 10, verse 118, where Islam, the Quran says that if God has so willed, he will have made every human being of the same faith. But he did not do that. So what are we talking about? Then the issue of whether, again, I want to make reference to some things that we have in Nigeria as a country. Friday is the most important day for Muslims worship. We don't have a holiday. Christians, they do the baptism, they have Saturday, Sabbath day, and Christians have their Sunday. Because our hospitals, the symbol is the cross. It's something that is not in consonance with the faith of Muslims. But Muslims are not making noise about this. The gowns, academic gowns that we use in the universities, and some titles or positions like the deans, they are deeply rooted in Christianity. And still, they say that Muslims are intolerant. Also, to look at that. Then finally, because a lot of questions to ask, but I want to just make it is important to distinguish between Arabization and Islamization. They are different things. Going to history, see that. Then the issue of Hajj being okay, I will conclude with that. Is that Arabs are not, the Arabians do not recognize Islam when they went for Hajj, and the picture of Arabs, the other canopies enjoying, and where we have blacks under bridge, over bridges. These are two different instances. My contribution to this, go and look at that. Go and look at it very well. When all pilgrims, when they come from Arafah, when they come back from the descent from Arafah, they all stay under the same, irrespective of your status, your race. All of them will sleep under. So the picture they are showing under is when they were all in camps. This is very, very important. And the issue of Hajj being a jamboree, well, I don't know whether is this not a case of Efijabi said no. And these are things that actually breed problems between people of different countries. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments. I know the presenter will definitely react to it. What's your comment about our engineer?
Well, I just want to make a comment regarding what I don't know our daddy there said about policies and how knowledge is being transferred from the academic into policies. There are policy institutions that can advocate for issues or that might be of public benefit, of which the research has been made at the academic institutions. So most of the time, the issues the academic institution has is that of course, we can say those policies, institutions can also make research about some of those things and make use of possibly their works. But the academic institutions should also possibly have a way of advocating for some of these things. And maybe by that, they can position themselves and have some of these recommendations becoming something that will be implemented by the government. Then the second one regarding how the Amotekun was formed and things like that. Amotekun is still a southwest policy, a security policy that came out of, I don't know if you know about Dawn Commission. So Dawn Commission was one that presented that policy initiative for the government, and the governors then took it over. The associations, they were in the Southwest Governors Forum. And during that time, there were PDP, there were APC, there was even LP. That was during the NICO period. So it was part of those that like pushed for the decision before the Akeredolu and the likes now took it over and at least have it on board. So of course, we may have different parties in Southwest, but I think they have more or less they position themselves towards the development of Southwest and through regional integrations, to be precise. Thanks.
What's your name and your...
So my name is Abi Abiodun, and I work for Dawn Commission. Thank you.
Thanks for the comments. This should have been the last bit because you are...
My has been upset.
No, I'm sorry.
My name is Stella Ayotunde. I'm a second year PhD student at of anthropology at Brown University. And my question is for Professor Ade. So I really enjoyed your session. It made me reflect a lot too as a Yoruba girl. But I think my question more falls with, looking at Nigeria and how multi-ethnic we are and multilingual that we are. We have over 350 languages in Nigeria. I know we are pushing strongly, to fight against, the killings of language, the death of language. And, I'm just thinking about it. How do we actually actively do this in a country that is as multilingual as we are? Especially if you think about, Tiago, what is it? Yeah, sorry, I'm very bad with that name. And then he turned his book and, put it into the language. How many languages in Nigeria are we going to put our books into? Do we put it in all languages? And even if we say, we should take a Nigerian language as the official language, look at what we are in already. It's not even about language. Religion is already clashing. And you're saying, let's pick the Yoruba language as or if we say pick the Yoruba language as the official language, think about the clashes that can, come into play. So I think in pushing strongly for, inculcating our language and our culture, we also have to sort of think about how multilingual and how multi-ethnic we are as a country. And I think that's my question. How do we actually balance these things out?
Thanks so much. All presenters, I want you to respond to questions or comments on your presentation in line with the work of Professor Bewaji. So that is the reason why we are here. So, and I will want you, the first presenter, to make your response.
Okay. What are we? I think Muslims must begin to guess the Quran, as the Christians are done. Christianity have been able to forget by have been able to get the guys. Yeah, they are able to get by. The Muslims have not done that. Then
they don't get that.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah. The methodology. So they buy the Quran. The Christianity, they have done that already. Then different criticism of the Quran, Muslims have not done that. And it's even a problem. When you say that the Quran says the religion for Islam is that Noah, Abraham, I don't hear the Jews that Islam is their Noah, Abraham, you said the Jews, Moses, the Jews, I don't say that their religion is Islam. They would refuse to tell no. Yeah, Judaism. So we have to go with history, historically. So saying that it is written like that, it's not historical. So it's totally historical. That is why there is need for different criticisms. So in academic exercise. Otherwise, if you just put it like that, you just say no, we are not historical. It's not historical. Now, there are those are things that you can see the area that
Your religion is yours, mine is mine. It's written there, but is that what is in actuality? It's not. Especially in Southwest, let us look at, let us don't forget the North. Let's look at like Yoruba land now. Is what is there? No. If that's what is there, then we should not be seeing conflict between the traditionalists and Muslims during their festival. The Muslims, they do their festival now. Nobody stole them, nobody killed them. But let the traditional Muslims, let them go out. Even in Ife, which is today this crowd of Ibaland, they were stoned. In Ogun State, you saw it everywhere, it was online. That she was stoned, then some people were killed. Why? Àfáà said to must not fancy. In Yoruba land, they say it is Ilẹ̀ Oríṣà. Ilẹ̀ Oríṣà, they call it Oríṣà. The end Oríṣà. So now you are now saying that now we should abandon it for what? No, now you cannot. So if if the Quran says yours is yours, then do it and leave them to do their own. They don't disturb you. That's what I'm saying. That is what the people are saying. And that is why we have to see areas. No one you are quoting Quran, no one wants to verses of 1 to 6. What about chapter 9, verse 5? It's all those areas that say kill them, strike them anywhere you see them. They are all there now. So how do you marry them together? They are there. See, Quran is on the soul, you can see them. So how do you marry that area that says yours is yours? Mine is mine. With the one that says that strike them anywhere you see them. They are also nice that they are conflict here and there. So people like don't do for around. What is the basis for killing those people? They are choosing areas that appeal to them. That the Quran says that anybody that is not a Muslim, kill him and destroy him. Therefore, they kill everybody. That's what is prohibiting them. That is why in Yoruba land, we have to begin to now be thinking that okay, we are all Yoruba first before we become Muslim, before we become Christian, and then start to see how can our own heritage, which is what I'm talking about, that we should not kill our heritage. So how do we now see that our heritage will not die? So regardless of what the Bible teaches, regardless of what the Quran teaches, Yoruba heritage, how it must not die. That's what we're talking about. So that you can be able to promote our own thing and then have what you can say to the world. That's what people are talking about. Okay.
My response first to my brother the back who spoke about the fact that Lagos state government is doing a lot in addressing the rights of people living with disability. I'll respond to you by linking it with one of Bewaji's works on sterile leadership. So much power, so much to do on the part of our leaders, but so little to show for it. In terms of resource, I know of many institutions in this country who are rated really high. Oh, it depends on SDGs, it depends on this and that, but they have classrooms and lecture rooms and everywhere that are not disability friendly. Anybody who is, the government will rate you as the best in whatever, but then people who are blind or deaf are not attending your school. I mean, I hope that answers your question. I mean, next to my Dr. Tinida Oladipo, who mentioned that how come disability persons are used for sacrifice in several cultures. I'll respond to you in Yoruba culture. I'll respond to you by also I mean making allusion to some of Bewaji's work. That's, as a matter of fact, that is how they want you to think about your culture. I mean, call a dog a bad name, just so that you can hang the dog. That's some of the things that we were told about our own culture. This is bad. Our people were even said to have no history, have no sense of crime, have no idea of God. Well, I know, I mean, for instance, that, I mean, when it comes to disability, right, that's Obatala, is the Yoruba god of justice, of equality, and is the patron god of the disability people. I mean, it's because it's, I mean, in Yoruba mythology, it says Omulamori, the one who actually molded everybody, the blind, crippled, and this, and I mean, if you are familiar with other Kogalala people, you know how much so much they were people living with disability. I mean, I don't know how in that same thought people will be used for some of those things. I also mentioned, I mean, I think I now. Thank you.
Thanks so much. If you are sharing just please call me so that just online to be able to see the next response to that. Who is able to see your face? Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So come to this side, the camera is not coming in here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I think I have one question we have to merge both together. It has to do with able practices and Sheshe. And I think those who are advocating towards the promotion of Sheshe. Well, first of all, I think to start with borders on two things. One is borders on knowledge, epistemology, and also borders on morality. You know, I mean, well, is there any complete proof or evidence that I mean, human resource and all that are done in Sheshe? I mean, there's no complete proof. Number one. Then two, let's look at it from moral angle. You talk about Christianity, but about Islam. I mean, are they free of any errors or are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. There's no religion that's perfect. And what we are saying here is that we have to understand the world is not just a universe. It's a pluriverse. It's a multiverse. So there are multiple ways of understanding or knowing things. There's no one way of knowing. And that's why I disagree with when he said you can't wear suit. No. In as much as you can wear it, it's true to wear suit. You understand that? I mean, there are multiple ways of doing things, not just one. You know, so we should need to understand that Christianity is not the only way. So I'm sorry, Islam is not the only way. I mean, Isheshetu is not the only way. Or allow them to build and practice their religion. Don't kill the religion. If you kill the religion, you are killing the knowledge system. IFA is the knowledge system. And that is what we need to understand. I guess that answers the question. Thank you.
Okay, let me just I've answered the question of you guys. I've answered it. What legal approach is give and let leave. In Igbo, they say Ibri Campbell. It means you give and let leave. It means simply means that you allow man, you allow your English to speak. But you won't tell me my Yoruba is nonsense. You understand? You won't tell me that I can't speak Yoruba, but I can't speak in my house. When I come home, my children know that Yoruba is very. No matter if I hold them together, I will speak the English. But will not tell my child to play for vernacular school. She will produce my child cannot tell me. I went to school when they said they will stop teaching them to act. I said, I'll take my child up to them. But teaching English, teach Yoruba. People ask you, you don't even know vernacular. You have insulted my entire generation. Okay, so we have answered the question of yourself. And I'll go to Dr. Dan. You see, the elites are good. That's what I was talking about myself. You have internalized the inferiority. And it's clear. If I want to engage you to forge you of that internal, the level of internalizing the prioritization of your it's a problem. We are all our children are not cartoon. We are not saying the children should not watch cartoon. And by the way, sir, let me tell you, sir, we have, I can afford some of the cartoon.
Thank you.
To do. They have
One channel on cable.
Oh, that's I would want them to.
On YouTube. Oh,
Yeah. They said what I was doing.
I have it now.
What I was doing.
I'll bet it.
You want
I have in English. Even this one. We have to get. Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
the one authentic definition. What I'm saying. When you allow your language to stay, when you allow your language to stay, and you use it, it will get improved. And use to be, for instance, I mean, if we can, for instance, we have the age of AI. Yeah, about 2-3 panels are going to be organized tomorrow. Now we have today. And people now that teach, have a guy who teach Ijebu, mathematics in Ijebu.
Yeah.
See, in 2010, when I published my paper, in fact, the paper that made me a doctoral student in Professor Bewaji at the club in 2005 was written on this thing that is happening today. I looked at it and I said, we should have a situation where we can develop the Yoruba language by making them have what's called techno-scientific value. That today it's happening. I'm so happy. I have the tomorrow someone is going to present on using Yoruba to teach biology, to teach chemistry. What is happening? You see, when you ask me to talk about the kind of elites we are talking about, I won't watch of this elite. Give me some of this here. Concerning policy.
And the international.
No, let us not talk about this. See, look, for so I just very clear. We have a problem. The so-called elites. We don't know the between Babalawo and Davose and Orishe. They are not the same. They are not.
I think I'm part of the African.
You see, it's a problem. It's not every that is has to do with people and one opinion. There are some things you give to people. They are basic. When we call it miracle.
Yeah.
What is your name? Akomoda. Akomoda, when you eat akomoda with granules.
What will you do? I feel what I'm thinking. Okay, thank you.
So please, concerning post-graduation policy, see, I'm happy you mentioned that you are done. Our own, people tell me to go on this. Professor Bewaji tried it, and I want to try it. You will travel all the way from Jamaica to work with Babaka. He will call Babaka. That's another question. He will call in the middle of the night and point to the gates. He will say, Yemi, I've called you and lost now. Some of them, people will talk about. They love this idea. They enjoy what Professor Bewaji was saying that. But the politically, it is what that order said. They cannot implement it. In woman, the woman between them and this idea when people are saying it. So the way forward is to allow to push it. I want to push it to this policy organization. Like for my own case, I do want the case to probably next or 1 or 2 years I will go for my sabbatical in Nico. That is the language in Abuja. There's an institute for Nigeria on the orientation and that they do languages. And it's a language policy organization. They push it. I'm going to do sabbatical there. So that we'll be able to push it forward. Go practical. If I want to go, I don't want to go practical. I will stay in my classroom. I'll be making this my noise.
So I think everybody who has asked questions, we are not at the end of the session yet. We still have like 10 minutes to go. So comments, but I'm thinking your question or comment was not responded to. Am I wrong?
He has not really conceptualized
Well, could I make a contribution?
We are trying to manage our
Exact 10 minutes.
No, this is the point that I want to bring Professor Bewaji to this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
We should have done that in the morning, but we postponed it to this particular session. Professor, you have heard from people who are interested in your work. What will be your response or responses to all of these conversations? Thank you. Professor, teacher,
I really, feel
the camera is not on the okay. No, I'm saying that it's fine.
I really feel very humble this particular event, what is happening here, it makes me feel that probably all is not lost. Maybe some people are listening or reading or paying attention. This morning, there was the issue of Japa. Some of us left for various reasons, but we didn't leave. And some of us are here and there. So it's very gratifying when you find that people pay attention to the kinds of nonsense that's put out there. It is nonsense to many people because they believe that we just, all this grammar and all these things that you are doing, who cares? Because if people didn't care, probably we would not be in this predicament. And there are a lot that we need to do and that we continue to have to do. And I'm very, very happy at the demography that I see here. I see young people who seem interested, who don't seem to have given up on our humanity, because that is the most important issue that one must continue to work on. In the morning, I made some notes. And I will not respond to all of them. But I do believe that some of those things which were debated from the idea of arts, nature of arts, and society, from the very first presentation to epistemology by Ms. Cornell, to narratives of struggle by Ms. Gibbs, to religion and culture for capital development by Gassama, and the environmental issues of just war, peace, and the environment. They were quite very interesting, and the discussion about Omoluabi. Now, you have put me on the spot. This afternoon has been very, very rich. Rich in many aspects, because it brings us face to face with the challenges that we have ahead of us. The first thing that I will note is the question of language. I don't know what we are going to do, or how we are going to do it. Language is a repository of science, of technology, of morals, of culture, of virtually everything. And if a language dies, so much dies with it. Especially, one might think that one is being partial to Yoruba language. It's not being partial to Yoruba language. I don't speak many languages in Nigeria. I can understand some when they speak it. If you are speaking Hausa, I can follow. I cannot speak it properly. But I do know that Yoruba language, which is one of the major languages in Africa, because it is spoken by more than 50 million people. I mean, you may think that Southwest actually begins from River Niger and goes down to the creeks of the River Niger and Atlantic Ocean. Not to mention the diaspora, because there are people in the diaspora who speak Yoruba. The first PhD in Yoruba language was actually done in Brazil, not in Nigeria. And that is a very, very interesting thing. And the Yoruba speaking group is way more than almost a third of the entire population of Western Europe, if you look at it demographically. So the question then is emphasizing the need to propagate and teach our children in the language of their birth. Let me give an example. In my presentation at Ladoke Akintola University, I made reference to the fact that before I was 5 years old, I was already selling for my mom. I was able to sell gari, I was able to sell beans, I was able to sell kerosene, and various other things. And I was able to count money, and I was able to give change. Only for me to get to the school, primary 5. And all of a sudden, they started teaching me 1, 2, 3. You can imagine. So they wiped everything I knew up to the age of 6. They wiped it and started with me as if I was a tabular person. And that in itself creates the challenge that we are looking at. The other point that I will make is the fact that, and I believe that many people need to pay attention to this, the universe that we inhabit, this solar system, and our humanity is at least a minimum of 500,000 years. In other words, human civilization has been around for more than 500,000 years. There are areas in the world where chemistry, chemical engineering had existed more than 100,000 years ago. Okay? And the Sahara Desert was not always a desert.
Yes.
It was lush vegetation where people lived.
Yeah.
Okay? And just recently, the confirmation, the gentleman who won this prize,
Yes.
Demonstrating that, art, the kind of art that you people have. We are indigenous, how they fabricated certain things, we are indigenous. This is not something that happened over the last 5 to 10,000 years. It's something, look at how people make Oshe, the science of making black soap, or making wori, and all those things, they are not new. But when the white man came and saw these things, in order to promote their own industries, they killed our own. That was how our gin, when we made gin, alcohol, they call it illicit gin, so that we can now be importing Shendam aromatic gin, which was a carbon copy of our own environment. Ishola. Okay? They killed our own rice in order to bring that. So, what I'm trying to suggest is the fact that a civilization that is not older than 3,000 or 4,000 years is what we worship, instead of one that are way more. Both the whole thing about the Old Testament and now is not up to 7,000 years. Islam is 1,500 years. And yet civilizations that are hundreds of thousands of years have been subjugated to serve desert bastards. Christianity and Islam. I don't care what anybody would say. Actually, the guy who got fatwa, Salman Rushdie, he just passed away at the age of 84. Okay? Oh, time. Sorry, you asked me to talk.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof.